The so-called space race was begun by an event known as the launch of the Sputnik 1, and in this video I'm going to explain to you how that event was in fact a hoax. Nobody died, nobody got hurt, and an understanding of this hoax is important to understand the outer space hoax, because a lot of people seem to realize that it's worth being skeptical about the so-called moon landings and the so-called Mars rover, but they don't seem to understand that those two things are merely red herrings, and outer space itself is a hoax. What are you talking about, JLB? That can't be. Yeah, I know, but let's just take a look and see where this video goes. So this is the Sputnik 1, and this is wikipedia.org, and it tells us that the Sputnik 1 was the first artificial Earth satellite. The Soviet Union launched it into an elliptical low Earth orbit in 1957. Orbiting for 3 weeks before its batteries died, then silently for 2 more months before falling back into the atmosphere. It was 58 centimeters diameter polished metal sphere with 4 external radio antennas to broadcast radio pulses. Its radio signal was easily detectable even by radio amateurs, and the 65-degree inclination and duration of its orbit made its flight path cover virtually the entire inhabited Earth. The satellite's unanticipated success precipitated the American Sputnik crisis and triggered the space race, a part of the Cold War. The launch was the beginning of a new era of political, military, technological, and scientific developments. Wow, sounds pretty interesting, doesn't it? The beginning of a new political era known as the space race, part of the Cold War. Because you see, East Asia and Eurasia and Oceania, they had different alignments during World War II, but a few years later, all of a sudden the alignments changed and now the Americans are against the Soviets, are they? Alright, so let's go and take some look at some archival footage of Sputnik now, shall we? And I've fast forwarded this video to the part that I think you're going to love. Check this out. That beep that you can hear right now, that's the beep they're referring to when they say that it was broadcast and even amateurs could hear it. This is what they're talking about. Holy shit, man, we can hear Sputnik.
Those eerie signals from the Soviet satellites circling the Earth were man's first soundings in the boundless regions of outer space. Moscow announced to the world the first step into the space age. The satellite was launched to coincide with the birthday centenary of Konstantin Tsiolkovsky, the outstanding Soviet scientist seen in these old newsreel shots.
Guys, I'm not making this up. This is archival footage. I'll put a link in the info box if you want to go and check it out. This is meant to be real, okay? Just get your heads around that.
Today, the scientist's home is a museum that houses a man's dreams and his blueprints of many years ago for the ultimate conquest of space.
Just think that this is how the space race was first propagated to the masses. This is all it took. This kind of nonsense is all it took to convince the lemming masses that all of a sudden humans were sending stuff into outer space.
A reconstruction of the launching of the Soviet satellite, with the tiny world situated in the nose of a multi-stage rocket.
The old multi-stage rocket.
First, from ground level, the takeoff. Then, mile after mile, the great climb was...
Think about that. They were literally using cartoons, and that was good enough to convince the lemming masses 3 generations ago. And do you really think people today are that much smarter? Really? Do you think people are smarter now? If they could convince the lemming masses with cartoons, overt cartoons, they're not even pretending this isn't a cartoon. This is like they're showing a cartoon as a cartoon. And this is enough to convince the lemming masses? What makes you think that people are any smarter today?
Made, each stage of the rocket falling away to cut down the dead weight. Finally, at the plotted height, 560 miles above the Earth, the satellite breaks free to circle the Earth every 95 minutes, sending signals back as it speeds on. Around the world, scientists have plotted the course of the man-made moon, flashing around the Earth at 5 miles per second.
Scientists have plotted the course. Oh, well, they've got their little compasses and protractors and draftsman's tables, and these scientists must know exactly what's going on up there in space.
In Britain, the satellite was tracked at the Radio Astronomical Research Station of Cambridge University, where the Russian Professor Kapitsa, one of the brains behind the Red Moon, was once a research professor. When the tiny man-made world began girdling the Earth, the station quickly improvised apparatus to plot its course. And here it comes, approaching Cambridge at 18,000 miles an hour.
Here's the experts, guys. Huh? How can you argue with that? Do you hear that, Charlie?
This is how the signals from the satellite were picked up on its first journey across Britain.
Ooh. Beep, 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 beep. Almost sounds evil. An evil Russian satellite.
Man had received his first message from outer space.
That's all it took, guys. That's all it took just a few generations ago. Now, the Sputnik story continued. They claimed to have sent animals into space. Check this out. This is meant to be the launch of the Sputnik 2. So they show us the first part, which is the clown rocket launching off, but then they cut to a cartoon. Yep, cartoon time. And there's your little superimposed doggy on the cartoon, hurtling into space. Now remember, this Sputnik was supposed to be the thing that started this so-called space race. Because remember, this is the story. Oh, the Russians, they wanted to beat the US to the moon. So the US wanted to beat the Russians to the moon. And they wanted to get full dominance of outer space with spy satellites and all this kind of nonsense here. That's the story. And it all goes back to Sputnik, at least insofar as sending man-made objects into space that can broadcast beeps and what have you. So the point I'm making with this is that what you think you know about space today, you probably think, oh, people have always believed that we could send men into space, or people have always believed in outer space. No, they haven't. No, they haven't. People had to be convinced that there was a place called outer space, and what better way to do it than to tell people that you're sending beepy-sounding machines up there, and you're sending cute little lovable dogs up there as well, and all this kind of crap. That's how you convince people that this place is real, by telling people you've sent stuff there. And oh, we've got the experts, and the experts are tracking its every move. See, look at these experts. Look at these guys, they're tracking it. They're tracking the whole thing. And the living masses at home who are dumb as dog's balls, goodness gracious me, are they stupid, they just go along with this. And if some of them do think to themselves, hey, hold on a minute there, you haven't actually shown me any evidence whatsoever that outer space is real. These are just cartoons and stuff. How do I know that you're not deceiving me? Everyone just says, well, you're crazy, man. You're crazy. Why would they lie about outer space? Why would they lie about that? Why would they lie about that? Well, I'm telling you, they're lying about that. There is no such thing as outer space. Outer space is in fact a hoax. Nobody died. Nobody got hurt. Same as a Sputnik. Same as the moon landings, the Challenger disaster. All fake. All completely fake. And if you want to see some of my evidence or hear some of my reasoning for why I say this, check out the link in the info box below. Here's a podcast I released just a couple of weeks ago. Completely free. It's called the Outer Space Hoax. It's only a short one. About an hour long, I think. Let's see. About an hour long.
All right, 2, 2, 1.
50 minutes long. So only a short podcast. It's free. Go and check that out. I think you'll enjoy it. And for those of you who want to look further into this outer space hoax, I also recommend a piece I released more than a year ago now, but it's just as relevant today as it ever was. And that is Outer Space versus Unicorns, which is a 4,000 word piece where I talk about outer space. Why do people believe in it? What evidence do they have? How come so many people use these appeals to authority, appeals to consensus? I go into a ton of detail about all of this, and that is available to MOOC members of johnlebon.com, which is now just $9.11 Australian per month, which works out to $6.16. That's right. For $6, you get instant access to all of this material, article after article, page after page, series after series. Goodness gracious me, this is the best deal in town. But if $6 US is outside of your price range, just go and check this free podcast. 50 minutes, I explain the whole lot. It'll all make sense to you. And those of you who still believe in these stupid freaking cartoon Sputnik satellites, Hey, what can I say, man? We live in strange times, man. We live in strange times indeed. Check the links in the info box below, and until next time, you guys, take care of yourselves.